The Heroes of Might and Magic board game has been delayed in true Kickstarter fashion. Should have visited the Hut of the Magi to see this one coming. I've scoured Discord, update posts, and hours of Archon live streams to find out why you won't be getting this game for Christmas. The game studio is unhappy, the backers are unhappy, the courier is unhappy, my wife is unhappy, my children are unhappy.
Merry Christmas, you wonderful!
But there may be great news for some of us, let me explain. From the start of the Kickstarter campaign, Archon Studio had given this timetable for pledge delivery, and they had stated that there would be 2 waves of shipments of the game, the first being primary languages backed before September 1st. The secondary languages and late pledges would then be shipped in Wave 2 of the second quarter of next year. The expectation was that Wave 1 would be shipped in December of 2023, with many backers planning on giving the game as a Christmas gift, but that's not going to happen. Archon Studio CEO Jarek Yarodowski did a live AMA on December 7th, announcing delays in shipping and manufacturing. They had originally expected the first batch to be shipped from China in November of this year. It wasn't. It all started with the Chinese manufacturer requiring an additional 30 days to complete the first round of production, due in part to the sheer number of orders. This first batch was then to be sent from China to Archon headquarters in Poland via freight train. Well, now there are more delays. The Chinese courier had given December 6th as the deadline for train departure, but for some unknown reason the train will not leave the station until the 11th, and they were slow to tell Archon Studio about it. Like Walking Dead in sand. Ugh. Meaning that the first shipment of games is now expected to arrive at the Poland headquarters on Christmas Eve. Yarodowski said there were about 3,000 pledges on the train. He also said that Archon Studio staff would likely only have time to offload the shipment into their warehouse before the holiday. He says it will now be impossible for anyone to get their hands on the game before Christmas. The studio is now going to have to bust their chops to ship out the game in the week between Christmas and New Year. And of course, that's if there's no further delays. But there's another kicker to this. The train delivery only contains the basic game and Azure level pledges. So if you spent more money on the Grail Collector or all-in pledges, your game won't even be on the train. Now those are slated to leave China on a container ship at the end of December, and it's going to take about a month for the 12 cargo containers full of games to reach Poland, where they will go directly to the Green Logistics Hub to ship out across the world starting in the end of January. But we're not done yet. Yarodowski said that the remaining 12 to 14 shipping containers would leave China at the end of January and make it to the shipping hub at the end of February. He specifically said he wanted those games out of China before the Chinese New Year on February 10th of 2024. Because according to him, starting at the beginning of February, the Chinese factories begin to shut down for the festivities and do not come back to full operation for 2 months. Sign me up for that holiday. Now this is where things get confusing, and potentially very interesting. Yarodowski used the words good news when describing all of these shipping containers, seeming to indicate that only the train was behind schedule. There have been numerous updates posted on the Kickstarter page stating that the Wave 2 pledges may actually ship early. Updates 29 and 32 state that there's a chance that if manufacturing can be completed before the Chinese New Year, Wave 2 could arrive 2 or 3 months early. Which begs the question, are these 12 to 14 remaining containers actually the shipment of Wave 2? Let's look at the numbers. The Kickstarter page says that nearly 27,000 backers pledged to the initial campaign, and there were an additional 18,000 late pledges, for a total of 45,700. This graphic was given showing the numbers of the top 3 pledges. I assume this is cumulative for both early and late pledges. I also assume the shipping containers coming from China are the typical ones that are 40 feet long, because using smaller containers is very inefficient and can cost up to 50% more for the same amount of space. There is 2,350 cubic feet inside of a 40-foot container. A typical board game box measures just under 1 foot squared by 3 inches deep, totaling 1/4 of a cubic foot. And the boxes for Heroes 3 look to be the typical size. There are 5 game boxes in the Grail pledge. Now let's say the big box is ginormous and estimate 2 cubic feet. That's bigger than all of this. We'll estimate that they can use only 90% of the volume in a given shipping container. I'll spare you the math, but the fact is it would be serious overkill, or just financially irresponsible, if the train and all 25 or so cargo containers are only carrying Wave 1 pledges. There would be over 30% space left unused. I don't think Archon Studio is financially stupid, so there's more to this than meets the eye. I don't know what the exact numbers are, and I'm just using rough estimates, but it looks like these remaining containers may actually be Wave 2. I don't want to get people's hopes up, but if I'm right, it is within the realm of possibility that the Wave 1 pledges may be in the hands of early backers before the end of February, and potentially Wave 2 backers may have the game as early as late March. Of course, all of this depends on the Chinese manufacturer getting out the game in accordance with the current timeline. That's a big if. And we could definitely use some clarification from Archon. Hopefully they see this video and correct me where I'm wrong. In the end, not even Archon Studio knows the exact date when the factory will complete production, but there is something that you can do to make sure that you get your copy of the game as soon as possible. If you back the game, then you will get an email from Green Logistics to confirm your shipping address. When you get this email, you want to respond as soon as possible, because the first pledges with a confirmed address will be the first ones to leave the hub according to Aradowski, and pledge fulfillment is not prioritized based on the country you live in. It looks like the game is still on course to be delivered in a respectable time frame, especially for a Kickstarter. I'll keep my eye on this and let you know if there's any big developments between now and March. And if you would like to see me roast this board game for irony and humor, then click on this video.